I recognize you somewhere. Your voice is very distinct.
Yeah?
What is your name?
Andy.
What are you playing? What are you?
I skateboard. Skateboarder.
That's what it is. I recognize you. I love your skateboarding.
Oh, dude, thank you.
I love your work, brother.
Oh, man, I appreciate it.
What you do, brother?
Oh, man, we're just roaming around, dude. We're a bunch of fucking ex-convicts, junkies that are just reminiscing on, like, he ran around here. I'm sorry if I just put it out there, but I think he's okay with it. What's up? I'm Andy fucking Roy. I'm a 100% junkie for life. I know that, straight up. I was in the gutter. I was sleeping in bushes, homeless, whatever. I came from skateboarding where you get to fucking cause a ruckus, and I took it there, and I ended up on heroin, man, and I ditched out on skating. My friends fucked them over, got kicked off, all this bullshit. Dude, it was like 2 decades of mass destruction of my life.
Ghosts in the square, chilling me.
It just got so deep that I started robbing and stealing, and then I would get arrested, and all this shit that started coming my way that just annihilated me.
The devil lays out his deal for me.
But I made it, man. I fucking got the help. I took the suggestions, whatever. I just, for me, I needed as much help as I could get because my way wasn't working. So what I want to do, I want to introduce you to people that are out there that have been there and that now are perfect examples of getting out of what they were going through and doing it and taking it to something positive, something really cool.
Vampires in the lab, steal from me.
And you want me to look to the camera periodically?
Yeah, sure.
All right. They let us out in a group around 8 o'clock, and we walked to the county jail to pick up our property. I had just under $30 on my books and told my friend that I was buying. After what felt like an eternity in the jail lobby, I was finally given my wallet, belt, and shoelaces, and off we went. We ended up scoring some dope in Skid Row and fixed in an alley right off Broadway. The anxiety of the past 3 days promptly subsided and was replaced by feelings of warmth and contentment. Tomorrow's pain was a world away. We had nowhere to go after we fixed, so we decided to go back to the jail and check into a shelter. There was a van in the jail that took people who'd just gotten out to a shelter upon release. We climbed aboard and were taken to a program on 6th and San Pedro, right in the heart of Skid Row. The sidewalks outside were packed with tents and cardboard condominiums, dilapidated habitats for broken souls to push their crack pipes, turn tricks, cop a knot, or pass out drunk.
This book right here, junkie, punk rocker, skateboarder,
Yeah.
been through it, here now. It was so cool to dive into it. It brought back flashbacks.
Cyborg Joe or something. And he was always in there and he had deep voice, you know? And he'd get on snake, because he called the guard, like, I want, he goes, I want some Kool-Aid, you know? And there'd be a Cyborg Joe, Cyborg Jack, no, you ain't getting nothing. You gotta wait for lunch, you know? I want my shit. And then he'd just stand on his bunk and he'd just fucking shit and start rubbing all over himself. And you're just like, what the fuck? It's just fucking insane. And they deal with this dude. He's in there. Every time I got arrested, he was in there.
We were each given a ratty old wool blanket and told we'd have to find a spot on the floor. Besides a couple old men who had long since lost their minds, we were the only white guys there, and we definitely weren't welcome. Nobody seemed willing to concede floor space, and after finding a spot we had to spoon to fit in, we closed our eyes and tried to sleep. The place reeked of piss, mildew, and ass. I used my shoes as a pillow and tried to overlook the fact that my face were a mere 6 inches from some of the nastiest feet I'd ever seen or smelled. Dirty yellow toenails poked out from the ends of socks, taunting me in a fetid form of derision.
What was the idea of writing this book right here?
Yeah,
Where did that come from?
So it came from basically, I think prison makes compelling reading, that kind of shit. It's a that culture, that subculture. But most people aren't hip to that shit. And I was thinking, fuck, I can do that. And at the time, I was working at a treatment center. I was working graveyard at this place in Orange County, and as a tech. And I had all this. I had time, man. I was sitting around doing nothing. I'd sit around with the guitar, you know, writing stupid fucking songs and all that shit. And it was like, and I always wanted to write a book, and I decided to do it. I had no idea how it was going to get published. I've never done, like, goals aren't my thing. Like, I've never conquered long-term goals. And so there's a lot of self-doubt when I wrote, I bought notebooks, I wrote it pen to paper, man. Skid Row had always exuded a malignant charm, one mired in waste and scum, yet somehow regenerative. The empty flooded streets could have been perceived as apocalyptic in the sense that the street urchin living there were gone, but in reality the storm was the tool used to wash the surface of a festering wound, a wound too deep to be cleaned. By the time I got to the bus station on Pico and Grand, I was absolutely drenched. The rain had been coming down at a level comparable to a monsoon, and I could feel my toes starting to prune from all the mud puddles that I had to walk through. I must have looked like hell to the bus driver because he didn't bat an eye when I told him I didn't have a fare. My plan was simple. Go to my mom's, tell her I was done, and beg her to let me stay with her. I arrived at her place with an unprecedented desperation to stay clean, and with willpower alone, I did, for 5 days. I went to Long Beach to pick up some clothes I left at a friend's. They were left on her porch, wet and mildewed because she'd had it with my shit, and the longing to get high hit me again. I battled with it internally at first, remembering the promises I made, but finally said fuck it, telling myself that I'd do it just once. I didn't have any money, so I ended up boosting some DVDs and it was on. I went back to my mom's that night, and when the morning came, I was gone.
I didn't do like heavy, gnarly crimes, but I was a booster too.
Got it.
And I remember like going down to,
Explain what booster is.
huh?
Explain what booster is.
Booster was like stealing from stores. So for me, I like once I was strung out and
Some people call it racking. But...
racking, yeah, there was different terms. Just stealing from stores, taking what you can.
So Guitar Center was always a good one. Like, and they had another one called Musician's Friend. But Guitar Center was great because they had a huge inventory. In these rooms, you could like practice. They'd have like amps set up and guitars up on hanging up on walls and shit. And, grab a guitar and of course uncinch the belt, and a snowboarding jacket on, baggy clothes, all that shit, and I'd stick that neck down the leg, and I'd limp out. I'd come into the store with a pronounced limp. You know what I mean?
Good
like,
one.
Yeah,
I caught that in there, dude. It's so good.
I'm thinking ahead. You know what I mean?
Dude, smart,
Exactly.
smart.
Right.
So rad.
But that was some scary shit, man. Like, you got that guitar down your pants, and you got to have that shit. You got to have a jacket, of course. You know what I mean? But like, you have that shit over you, and you couldn't move, man. You moved too quick. That guitar would pop, like the body would pop out a little bit, and like.
That's what you would say, because it was moving your jacket, and they'd move, right?
Yeah. And then people talking to you, hey, do you need any help, sir? Like
and then be able to keep that straight face. And
exactly.
Like,
oh no, I'm okay. Just check it out. These distortion pedals,
Yeah.
Okay. And then you make it outside the door, and you're like, all right, I made it out, and then you still have to limp. You know what I mean? You're like, you're getting away. You want to get the fuck out. You can't take the guitar out like right outside. You have to like walk around some alley and like. Remember doing that so many times, man. Like
I was doing stuff that I thought I'd never do before.
Sure.
Like it was like the total opposite. And then I just surrounded myself with just crazy dudes, and these dudes were like going to jail, and like I had never been to jail.
Yeah.
And like I knew I was on that route. So I remember I was with my buddies, and I was like, dude, what? Because I was from like East Side Santa Cruz, so we all went to the same unit, D unit in Santa Cruz. So I knew that all my buddies that went there, and I was like, dude, what's it like? I'm like, draw it out for me. I just knew I was headed there.
Gotcha.
So they drew it out. Well, this is the top tier right here, and you're gonna go into D unit. That's all our homies. But I knew my path was there.
That's funny.
And then I got there, and I went to that unit, and all the dudes I ran with on the streets were there.
Yeah.
And then it just like became like a revolving door, man.
All right. The bus lumbered out of Los Angeles, passing Wayside and Magic Mountain, over the Grapevine and into the fertile farming region of the San Joaquin Valley that Steinbeck had written about so many years ago in The Grapes of Wrath. But instead of a jalopy carrying the Jode family, our transport carried convicted felons. There have only been a handful of prisons in California, but in the late 80s and early 90s, they started spreading like sores on a crackhead's mouth. Draconian drug laws, gang enhancements, and three-strike laws, come with a civilian population swept by fear, created a condition in which new prisons were being built at breakneck speed. California's answer, it seemed, was to lock up anybody who broke the law. This led to severe overcrowding, and it wasn't until recently that it was recognized as a problem, and only because the federal government identified it as such. I don't know, man, but it was like, I think a big thing to me was seeing a friend of mine who wrote a book, you know what I mean? Seeing someone that I knew who had, you know, who I used to buy dope from. He was a dealer a long time ago, and anyways.
Was Tom Hansen the dude from the Farts?
Yeah, played in the Farts,
I remember that, man.
I realized that skating, man, I skated with like these 30-year-old superstars of skating. Man, there's this dude up here in Washington, his name's, you know, I'm giving this dude props. His name's Tom Hansen, you know, he was in this punk rock band called the Farts. You know, I don't like to idolize people and shit, but this dude, man, I really looked up to him because he was like the superstar of skating.
I don't know, or it's something, I always wanted to be more than just a junkie, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah,
Always
absolutely,
wanted to, you know?
for sure.
And, because that's what it came down to, was just like living the life of like, living in the spoon, man, that was it, you know? Or the bottle, or whatever the fuck it is, man.
24.
All the time.
Yeah.
That's it. Or in the throes of agony trying to,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And,
For sure.
Yeah, so it was always like that shit.
I would love to just maybe go.
Yeah, let's
me.
go take a little walk around the neighborhood, you know, and
Yeah.
see what's happening. See the gutters and the streets and the whatever else.
Like, what's the most time you spent down here?
I was, from when I discovered this place, I was here, between here, MacArthur Park, and Hollywood, basically, right? And I was usually be running around Hollywood, and then scoring out here.
Right.
Yeah. Used to be back then, I'd score up on Broadway. You know, they pushed everything out this way. They'd start cleaning shit up over here, you know, Maine. And used to stay right at the Cecil Hotel right there. Shit, I would sleep on the streets, you know what I mean? GR bed, like I said before.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know, it's just kind of where I found myself. Time seemed to have slowed to a point I didn't know was possible. We had nothing to do in our cell except read, exercise, and talk shit. We were let out for yard 2 times a week, and it was mandatory for us to go out and represent our race. Each race had their own area staked out, with 2 sets of pull-up bars and dip bars being used, one by the blacks and Asians and the others by the whites and Southsiders. There were no Northerners on the yard because of past riots. Men walked together in small groups on a walking track, talking about their time while looking toward the acres of farms on the other side of the fences. I couldn't help but wonder how many of those men would never again see those fields from the other side, destined to live their lives within a kill fence.
Man, there's some hope out there, man. There is some cool stuff on the other side, you know, and that's why I'm grateful that you're here today, man. Like to share this, because it's neat to see it's from reading your book and just hearing your story, you know, to be standing with you here right now.
Yeah.
You know, and
likewise, you know what I mean?
It's a trip.
I know your story, you know, so it's like, and I identify with that. So it's like, it's so profound to see people who have succumbed to shit, you know, and come out the other side, you know what I mean?
Because it's so easy to get stuck in that, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, we did it for years, and like, if you just give it a chance, that's all my thing, man. If someone catches on to this, man, hopefully they'll see it and like, okay, plant the seed. That's all I'm doing, trying to plant the seed. So, man, thank you guys, man. This is why we're doing this. Scott, give me a hug. Give me a hug. Yes, dude. Yeah. This is why we're doing this right here, man. Pass it on. Pass it on. Show some love out there.
Absolutely.
And you can live and have a fucking very wonderful life. Amazing life. Thank you. Yes. Scottie.
That was fucking awesome, guys.